All right, let's talk about Robert Greene's The 48 Laws of Power. There's one strategy in there that's, well, it's pretty ruthless, but you can't deny it works. We're talking about Law 42, and it's all about solving a problem that, let's be honest, we've all seen before. That one person who just poisons a group from the inside.
So let me ask you this. Think about any team you've been on, maybe at work or even just a group of friends. You know how it is, right? When things go south, when there's conflict and negativity, you can almost always trace it back to one person. So the big question is, what do you do about that person?
Okay, so the first step here, if you're even thinking about this law, is to get your diagnosis right. We're not talking about just general bad vibes in a group. No, this is about zeroing in on that one single individual who's really the source of all the trouble.
And here's Greene's whole point. This isn't just some minor annoyance you can ignore. It's a contagion. It's like a virus. You let that one arrogant or super negative person have free reign, and that toxicity, it's going to spread. It's inevitable. Before you know it, the whole group dynamic is poisoned.
So, what's the fix? Well, the book lays out a solution that is incredibly clear and decisive. It's about cutting through all the noise, all the endless arguments and negotiations that usually go nowhere.
And that brings us to Law 42 itself. The big idea here is don't even bother trying to reason with these people. Don't try to win them over. Greene basically says they're often irredeemable, so the strategy is super direct. You have to neutralize their influence. And how do you do that? Simple. You isolate them or you get rid of them completely.
Yeah, that's the heart of it, right? The shepherd and the sheep. A lot of times, all that group conflict is really being held together by one person, the shepherd. You take them out of the picture, the followers, the sheep. They just get confused, they lose their direction, and poof, they scatter. The problem just kind of dissolves on its own.
Okay, so how do you actually do this? What's interesting is that the law isn't really about some big dramatic public takedown. The main strategy is way more subtle. But, and this is key, it's just as final.
It all comes down to one word: isolation. See, isolating someone just seems less brittle than an all-out attack, right? And that's smart because it helps you avoid backlash, you don't accidentally create a martyr, but don't get it twisted. The end result is exactly the same. Greene has this chilling line: in the game of power, isolation spells death. Their influence is just gone. So the book actually gives a few ways to pull this off. You could, say, cut them off from their allies, their support system, or you could literally remove them from the picture by sending them off on some faraway assignment. It doesn't really matter how you do it. The goal is always the same. You sever their ties to the group and you completely neutralize their ability to cause trouble.
But, and this is a huge but, you have to be careful. Trying to use this law is a high-stakes gamble. If you mess this up, the consequences can be absolutely catastrophic. Which brings us to the most important part: the reversal of the law.
And this quote from Machiavelli really gets to the heart of the danger. The idea is, if you're going to take a shot at someone, you better make sure they can't get back at you. Because if you try to isolate someone and you fail, or you do it when you're not actually in a position of power, whoa, you don't just go back to square one. You've just created a bitter, vengeful enemy who now has one mission in life: to bring you down.
And the book gives this perfect historical example of how this can blow up in your face. So after Lincoln died, President Andrew Johnson decided that his top general, Ulysses S. Grant, was a troublemaker. He tried to isolate him. Big mistake. It just made Grant, who was already super popular, furious. So what did Grant do? He used that attack to build up his own power base, became the Republican nominee, and then became the next president, absolutely crushing Johnson in the process.
So here's the bottom line, the most crucial point of all. If you're going to strike the shepherd, you absolutely must do it from a position of overwhelming, unshakable power. You have to be 100% sure they have no way to get revenge, because a weak attempt, a half-hearted shot, that is so much worse than doing nothing at all. You literally turn a minor annoyance into a mortal enemy. And I want to leave you with this final thought, which comes right from the book. The law says that in the game of power, isolation spells death. It makes you really think about how final that is, right? If you manage to cut someone off from their network, from their source of power, have you just hit the pause button on them? Or have you completely ended their relevance for good? Something to think about.